Hello everybody, it's TheSofaSoldier, part of 4Gamers vs the World. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about the Hitman beta. Obviously it's been out for a little while now. It just went public to everybody on the PlayStation 4 and I believe on the PC as well. I've got it on both platforms. I played a bit of it on both, and here's what I have to say basically. Before I go into this, obviously, don't forget to, like, subscribe, all of that jazz down below. Let us know what you think about the content in the comments section. Keep the good vibes up. We want to build a solid community here, and don't forget to check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/4gamersversus. The link will also be in the description. Basically, with the new Hitman, it looks like IO Interactive and Square Enix have decided to start over. They've basically been saying that from the start. The story setup, actually, I was surprised what they actually gave you with the beta. It seems like they're trying to set up the universe around the new Hitman game so that you go into it really knowing what to expect. And I wasn't hoping for a huge amount of story, but it was enough of a taster to actually give you some real intrigue. Essentially, it starts off and it's set about 20 years before the events of, I would say, like Hitman Absolution and everything. So it's set before Blood Money as well, which is odd, considering that it borrows quite a lot of cool mechanics and stuff from the older Hitman games, notably Blood Money, and is the spiritual successor to it that everyone's really been waiting for. Absolution really wasn't a classic Hitman game. It was fun and you could do cool stuff in it, but the story was kind of ridiculous and I felt it was a little bit too heavily scripted for its own good. Although it's still worth playing and it's still very cheap. If you can get hold of it, it's definitely worth it. It's essentially the beginning of 47's career with the agency, the beginning of his relationship with his handler, Diana Burnwood, and the inquiries that are made essentially into his non-existent past, which even the agency really don't know about. It's mentioned that essentially they discovered him in like this hospital in Eastern Europe or something, and like he says he hasn't recovered any of his memory and they can't find any actual records of him before that, and Diana's selected him to be her exclusive agent and she his handler. There's a bit of a conflict of interest within the agency as to whether he's the right man for the job. Is he being sent here to sabotage what they do, etc, etc. They don't fully trust him. He's still brand new. He hasn't proven himself to them as the agency, and that's where you come in actually, because in terms of its design, the beta, like all betas, is essentially an introduction to the mechanics and the scope of each operation that you will undertake in the new game. The two levels that are included in it are training simulations for 47 to prove his talents to the agency. They're recreations of famous assassinations carried out. One of them is on a private yacht targeting like an artist who's also happens to be an art thief, and the other is like a Cold War airfield. It's a hit on an Western defector who's trying to escape to Cuba by fighter jet or something. One is designed to look like a mock training stage. It has kind of like the cardboard cut out plywood stuff around it. That's the boat, by the way. It's in the shape of a boat and everything, but you've kind of got like cardboard cut out helicopter and stuff. If you didn't know more about it, if they didn't explain it, it would look like incredibly lazy texture work, but honestly it isn't. It's just designed as a training level, so it's kind of like a training range, but it's populated by AI. It's kind of strange, but you have to see it in action, and you will see it in action in this video, and it does kind of make sense. Yeah, the second stage, the final test that they call it, which is the Cold War air hangar and the fighter jet and everything, is a lot more realistic. There's tons and tons of guards, there's multiple entrances and exits, different ways in and out, tons of different strategies you can use. Overall it's very approachable for beginners, and it's a really good starting point for players new to the franchise, but there's also tons of challenges and depth for real series veterans to get their teeth stuck into, and even the beta itself has a huge amount of replayability. I found it incredibly fun to stream and just play in general, and I think it'll be really awesome as a live event to play this game and get the community involved in the chat and see what they want me to try and do and attempt different things. It doesn't really baby step you through it. It's not like a for dummies guide and everything. It presumes that you've had like some experience with a stealth action game, and I actually quite like that. I think there's so many stealth elements and that kind of stuff that's built into modern action games anyway, even as a sub mechanic, that I feel that it's probably the most accessible Hitman game to date without it feeling like something totally alien. Gameplay wise, it's very smooth, very precise and intricate. It doesn't feel clunky or unresponsive. I really enjoyed how it played and felt on the controller. I didn't get the chance to play it much on the PC. I did play it with keyboard and mouse for a bit, but realised I'm just not that good at stealth games on the keyboard and mouse. I'll stick to strategy and to FPSs, but no, I need analog sticks and a controller for for stealth games. Sorry, but the PC version does look amazing as well. It doesn't. I think it's a later build of the beta as well when you compare it to the console one, because obviously the PlayStation 4 had the exclusivity on the beta. By that I mean it had the build first for those who'd pre-ordered. So I'm thinking that the build on the PC is probably a bit later because I didn't have as many issues that I ran into, which I'll get into at a later part of this commentary anyway. The gameplay itself really rewards creativity and exploration, especially if you eavesdrop on conversations and discover what the game calls opportunities, which are a part of a new system that enables you to find strategies for killing your target and to pick the best mid-gameplay flow. So, for example, I'll be walking past the hangar door and I'll hear two mechanics talking to each other, and I'll find out a strategy that will let me get close to the target without being discovered and potentially another way to eliminate him. Some of these strategies and these opportunities allow you a way to isolate the target for a stealthy kill away from guards and things like that. For example, to lure him towards a radio room to contact someone he needs to, and he leaves his guards outside whilst you go in with him. Some are environmental kills, which are quite hilarious, some of them, if you time them right. Others are based on deception, i.e. you can assume another's identity and manipulate the target into doing something he really shouldn't. These are also hilarious, but some of them are really clever. Like, you can intercept someone who's supposed to be having a business meeting with the target. You can isolate that person, take him out, steal his clothes, hide his body and assume his identity, and then use that to lure your target away from his security detail and to finish the job, essentially. And there's a ton of different challenges that are involved in this that you can just replay and replay to try and find the best way, or the most satisfying way at least, to eliminate targets. In terms of the cons that I have about the game, some of my real concerns, obviously this beta is now live on the PlayStation 4 and on Steam. I think it's live on Xbox One as well. I'm not too sure. I haven't turned my Xbox One on in about 4 or 5 days, so I really haven't checked. But on the PlayStation 4 especially, it's clearly an older build. There's some dodgy textures, there's character model issues, not loading in properly. I literally had one save where I reloaded after I'd been discovered, and like half of Agent 47's character model was missing. Literally, you could see through his entire back. It was like a pair of legs and back and shoulders and his head, and the whole half of his torso was missing. And it was kind of hilarious, but also like a bit concerning when you consider that essentially the main retail game is coming out on Friday the 11th, I believe, of March. Yeah, there's some funky animation glitches with character models and graphical pop-in, especially when it gets a bit hectic. There's large crowds, there's guards looking for you, that kind of thing. I'm hoping this will be resolved by the time the final build of the game comes out, as it could really affect its score. Nevertheless, I'm hopeful that this is an old build and stuff like that will be resolved, and we'll see the true shine of this on the finished product later this week. Sadly, like I mentioned earlier, controller support on PC, it recognises that you've got a controller, that you've downloaded the driver. On the menu it'll say, oh, press A to start or whatever. Then buttons don't work. Yeah, I tested it on other games, on Street Fighter and everything, Street Fighter 5, my buttons work just fine. So yeah, it's a problem with the build of the beta, essentially. Hopefully they can patch this in on day one and I won't have a problem. Otherwise I will have a problem, because I've downloaded this on Steam because I wanted to play it on PC, and if there's no controller support I'll have to struggle through it and learn it on a keyboard and mouse. On the flip side of the coin, the pros of this game is it's really, really fun. It's genuinely entertaining. It's highly creative and rewards that style of play. It's incredibly ambitious in its scope. The gameplay mechanics are really smooth and well integrated into basically everything you do. Everything contextual is really smartly placed and works surprisingly well. It's highly, highly replayable and very addictive. Equal parts absolutely hilarious when you get a really stupid kill or you cock up massively, and also really dark. You can really pull off some assassinations that are like, ooh, I really shouldn't have done that. I feel for the guy. All in all, I'm really looking forward to playing the full release on the 11th of March. And stick with us and with me, TheSofaSoldier, and the rest of the crew, UnluckyRetro, TeddyHoggle and Jamboster, on the 4Gamers vs. the World YouTube channel and on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/4gamersversus, for all of our live and on-demand content. Our review will be up hopefully soon. I want to play through the full story mode and really get an idea of the depth of everything I can do in it. So bear with me. It might be a week or two, but I want to put out a proper review that really goes in depth and gives you a good idea of the game and whether it's worth your money or not. So I'm hoping that you appreciate me taking my time with the review. Anyway, it's great to be back. It's great to give you this first look at Hitman. I'm really hoping that you enjoy this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. I'm TheSofaSoldier, and I'll see you in the next one.
Just a moment. Yes, found it.
Step 3. Pull the ejector seat handle.
Right. Here it goes. Pull.
Oh dear. That's not good on my mechanics
Oh my
either.
God, did that just happen? That shit was definitely not.
That shit was definitely not part of the plan.